All right, guys, I am headed in to interview Alan Richson, who is stepping into some pretty legendary shoes, those of Tom Cruise, as Alan takes over as the new Jack Reacher.
The last interview she did for us was with Alan Richson. It's really nice to see the two of them together because they both are on the cusp of, you see these two great talents who are on the cusp of making a bigger and bigger mark in this business.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, Alan, you are super fit in this series. I don't know how you eat Hardee's and stay that fit. How many hours do you have to put away at the gym to be in shape for this role?
Never enough, it seems. It took a lot of work to put on 30 pounds for the role.
Oh, gee, 33 pounds, that's how much muscle you put on for the role?
Yeah.
Richson is going to be a huge star, and there's Chesley, who was just, gosh, she got better and better and better. I mean,
What was your last text?
one of the last texts I sent her, Chesley, Bushman here, been doing this a while. Watching the feed right now, you are hitting a real stride. Natural, great energy. Keep rocking. She said, thanks, Billy. That really means a lot to me. I've been listening to feedback and working hard to improve. Glad to be on this incredible team.
Good morning, everyone. Good to have you here at worship, and for those of you watching online, good to have you here as well. It's good to be the church, and just know that we believe that there's no accident that any of you are here, whether you're here or out there. That God's going to use this time to bless you with a message of His love. So let's see. On Thursday, the weather person said that on Friday it was going to start to get warmer, and it did a little bit. But then on Friday, they said Saturday was going to get warmer. And then on Saturday, they said Sunday it's going to get warmer. And I woke up this morning, and now it's back to Tuesday. They just keep, I feel like the donkey with the carrot dangling out in front of him. I hope it comes. I mean, 40 degrees and a little bit of melt wouldn't be all bad, right? So that video, that was, they were talking about Chesley Christ. And if you've been following the news this week, you've heard that name a few times and about her very tragic death. I'd like to give you just a little bit of background about Chesley. She went to college at the University of South Carolina, where she graduated cum laude, and she was on the Gamecocks track team. Then she enrolled at Wake Forest, where she earned 2 degrees. She got her law degree, and she got her MBA, her Master's in Business Administration. She took a job in North Carolina as a full-time lawyer. And she did, when she did that, she was doing civil litigation, but she also volunteered her time. She did pro bono work for prisoners who expressed the desire for getting a second chance. And she would donate her time to try to get them released early so that they could get started with that second chance. And then she became Miss North Carolina. And then she became Miss USA. And then she was one of the top 10 finalists in the Miss Universe pageant. There's more. She got done with her duties there and became the New York correspondent for the news magazine on TV called Extra, where she earned a nomination for a Daytime Emmy. I mean, this girl had the world by the tail. She had everything going for her. In fact, the police official who offered a news release last week said that she had a life that anybody would be jealous of. Well, if you've been following the news this last week, you know that a week ago today that Chesley jumped off the balcony of her 29th floor New York apartment. And everybody wants to know why. What in the world is going on? She had everything to live for. Why this? Her mom, in an interview or a statement, I believe it was, last week, said that Chesley was suffering from something called high-functioning depression. I know what that is. In other words, she could carry on life just like normal. I mean, you saw her up there. She was smiling. She was happy. She was vivacious. She could carry on life as normal and no one would see it. In fact, she hid this from everybody, including until just recently, her mom. But it was a monster, right? I mean, here it is again. The iceberg, 90% beneath the surface, right? Well, Chesley did leave us a hint a few months ago of what was going on with her. It came in the form of an article that she wrote for Allure magazine, and the article was entitled something like the reflections of a beauty queen who is now turning 30. And I'd like to read you part of this, would you please? She says, I discovered that the world's most important question is why. Why earn more achievements just to collect another win? Why pursue another plaque or medal or line item on my resume if it's for vanity's sake? Keep going. Why work so hard to capture dreams I've been taught by society to want when I continue to find only emptiness? Continue. Next slide. Maybe? Is it stuck? It's locked. Of course it is. Okay. So basically, what she says is that all she can do, while everybody else is pursuing these things for their own self-glorification, all she has in life is this, again, emptiness. Is it going to come up? Is this emptiness that she finds herself chasing after the next medal or the next accolade. But it does nothing. Okay, here it is here. Too often I notice that the only people impressed by an accomplishment were those who wanted it for themselves. Meanwhile, I was rewarded with a lonely craving for the next award. I'm glad that came up because that word craving is going to come back up again in the sermon. All right? So, with all those happy thoughts, I'd like to stop here and let's think about this for a minute, and then let's sing. So as you all know, we're in the middle of a really sort of a year-long series. It's called Focus on Jesus, and right now, between now and Easter, we're trying as best we can to sort of chronologically go through the Bible stories. So we've got to get a sense of how things move. And that's hard to do because there are 4 different versions of the story, 4 different portraits, if you will, of Jesus, and each of them look a little different, but we're doing our best here. And and we're also doing this both on Wednesday evening and then following up on Sunday morning. So Wednesday evening is the first taste. Sunday morning, I'm going to give you the main course. And by the way, if you weren't at church on Wednesday, you need to go back on either YouTube or our webpage and take a look at the church service. Because, I mean, it's just crazy cool what's happening with our kids. They are learning the stories. It's just amazing. So in the sermon, I asked some questions about the story, and they're raising their hands, and they're shouting it out. They know this story inside and out, and it's so much fun. And I want to tell you, it's all about the teachers and the shepherds. Let's praise God for them, if we could, please. It just seems like everybody says, well, I've done my turn, but what you do changes lives as you do that kind of work. And I'm so thankful for this group of people. So anyway, the story that we're working on today is really kind of part 2 of last week. And it's Jesus in the wilderness. But this time we're looking at the conversation between Jesus and Satan and the temptations that Satan has for Jesus. But to get at that, I think we first need to look at another story. Go back to the very beginning. We're going to go back to Genesis chapter 1. We're not going to go all the way to the beginning of the creation story, but we're going to go to day 6 when people, humans, are created. And let's read this together, if you would, please. Read it with me. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Then God said, let us make human beings in our own image, to be like us. Okay. We won't get into the fine details of this, but the reason I want, and leave that up there, please. The reason I wanted to point that out is that when we are first made, we are made with the stamp of God on us. It's deep inside of us. It is the substance of who we are. God has stamped his image upon our souls. And as we are in a relationship with him, at the very first, when this first happens to Adam and Eve, things are good. When they're in that relationship, that stamp is a God-shaped center to your life. And at first, Adam and Eve are in it, and they find in their life communion with God. They find a self-satisfaction, not a self-satisfaction, but a satisfaction, a fullness, a completeness, a sense of purpose and meaning to their lives, simply because they are living in this relationship of trust and provision. They trust God. God provides for them. God protects them. God keeps them. And that not only does those things functionally, but it also fills their life with this God-shaped center. Okay? And it stays that way until you turn the page and go to chapter 3. And, of course, you know the story. It's the story of the fall. And Satan is, in the form of a serpent, is talking to Adam and Eve. Could you put up the next slide, please? Let's read it together. This is the temptation. Read it with me. You won't die, the serpent replied to the woman. God knows that your eyes will be open as soon as you eat it, and you will be like God, knowing both good and evil. Okay, so the serpent likes to deal in half-truths, because some of what he says is true there. They're not going to die, at least not right away. They are going to be like God in that they know the difference between good and evil. But these truths that the serpent that he's peddling are really half-truths, because what he's doing is he's using it to plant the seed of doubt in their minds and in their hearts that God isn't being straight with them, that he's not trustworthy, that there is something more to life, and your relationship with God is getting in the way of that. That's the temptation, to be your own boss, right? And so, living in the image of God means that you're going to be doing things for yourself, or attaining that image of God. It also means that when it comes to finding meaning in this world, you have to do it on your own. Because when they take that fruit for the first time, and when they succumb to the temptation of being their own gods and knowing the difference between good and evil, that God-shaped center suddenly becomes a God-shaped hole. And it is a bottomless pit. And now, instead of being able to count on God to fill that center of their lives, they have to try to fill it with whatever they can find to fill it. Now, this God-shaped hole thing, this is not my idea. It comes from a 17th century mathematician and philosopher by the name of Blaise Pascal. Some of you probably heard of him. Would you please put up the next slide? And so this is what he says. What else does this craving and this helplessness proclaim but that there was once in man a true happiness? He's talking about Adam and Eve before the fall, of which all that remains is the empty print and trace. This humans try to fill in vain with everything around him, seeking in things that are not there the help he cannot find. Got that? Is there another slide with him? Go on. Why work so hard to capture the dreams I've been taught by society to want? Oh, wait a minute, let me stop there. Okay, this is not Blaise Pascal. This is Chesley Chris. Okay, here we go. Why work so hard to capture the dreams I've been taught by society to want when I continue to only find emptiness? She's saying the same thing as he is. Too often I notice that the only people impressed by an accomplishment are those who want it for themselves. Meanwhile, I was rewarded with a craving for the next award. Saying the same thing. The God-shaped center of our lives, once we turn away from him, and that happened in the beginning with Adam and Eve, becomes a bottomless hole that no one can fill. So now let's go to Matthew chapter 4 and the temptations. So Jesus and Satan are talking, and Satan throws out these three temptations. And basically what he's doing is he's throwing the same lines at Jesus that he threw at Adam and Eve a long time ago. So if you are the Son of God, and by the way, suggested here by Satan is that God cannot be trusted, that he's keeping you from your true purpose, that he's holding you back to be what you are meant to be. And so he says, if you are the Son of God, take these stones and turn them into bread. And throw yourself off the temple because you're not going to get hurt. And all the kingdoms of the world will be yours. It's very simple. You just got to pay me a little due. Let's stop there. Who among us wouldn't bite on those offers? Huh? But they're put in front of Jesus. They're put in front of Jesus, and Jesus recognizes them for what they are. They're traps to take his God-shaped center and turn it into a God-shaped hole. A hole that Jesus could not possibly fill by himself. He sees it for what it is. It's a trap. And he is the human that we were meant to be. Because remember, last week, God's Spirit drives him into the wilderness. Why? So that he can live life as we live life and know all of our struggles and all of our trials as a human among humans. And let me tell you, it's not easy. You all know that. And let me also tell you this, that just because you have this God-shaped center that fills you and satisfies you and gives your life meaning and purpose doesn't mean that real life is going to go away. No. It just means that you have a God that you are walking with as you go through this life of trial and trouble. Yeah, the sickness is still going to be there. The disappointments are still going to be there. The heartaches are still going to be there. The suffering, the death, it's all going to be there. And Jesus went through all of that. The difference is having God walking with you, having God filling your life, and not trying to fill it with other stuff. So that In anxiety and trial, there is peace. And in times where you are down, there is joy. And when everything looks impossible, there is hope. That's what Jesus does. He walks this life as we walk this life. But he lives it with a God-shaped center to his life. And he stays with it even when things get really tough. Even when he is beaten and abused and hung on the cross. Even when he has its own doubts. You've heard me say this before. He's on the cross. He expresses doubts directly to God. He doesn't share them with everybody else. He doesn't turn God away. He says, God, we are in this together. Why have you forsaken me? And what God does with that is he fills Jesus with a sense of himself. And then he takes that filling and he turns the senselessness of Jesus' death into the most meaningful, the most purposeful thing that we have ever known. He turns it into a gateway to eternal life, meant to be shared with you and with me. Let's stop there. So I have a question for you. What is having it all? If you ask the world, they've got some pretty interesting answers, don't they? In fact, one of the people I was reading about this passage told about a PBS show called Frontline. Maybe some of you have heard of it. And one of the episodes was about marketing and advertisement and how it has changed over the years. And it used to be in advertising that what they would do is they would sell the quality of the product and how good that product was, and that's why you needed to buy ours rather than theirs. Nowadays, what they're doing is they're selling meaning. They're saying, this product is going to make your life better. It is going to fill you. Yeah, that new car is going to fill you. Those new shoes are going to give you a sense of satisfaction like you've never had before, and it's even true about the solution that you use to clean your toilet bowl. I kid you not. And you know something else? It works. They wouldn't use it if it didn't work. We buy this stuff based on those ads in the hopes that the promises that the ads make are true, and when we buy them, we will have a sense of purpose and a sense of self-satisfaction that we didn't have beforehand. I mean, we are a materialistic society, and we keep looking to materials to make our life meaningful. So how's that working out for you? It's not working out very well for me, I know that, and it's certainly not working out very well for our children in this community. I shared with the group on Wednesday, I had a conversation this week with one of the professional staff at the school. And she was telling me, man, we as teachers and as paraprofessionals and even down to the janitors, we're just, administration, we are just fried. And I said, well, tell me more. He said, well, it's the kids. I mean, it's always, there's always that kind of stuff going on. But ever since COVID and when we came back to school, oh my, it is just crazy. They're putting out fires right and left. I've been trying to have a conversation with the 4 school counselors, but they go to work and all they get done is the meat grinder, taking care of one thing after the next, after the next, after the next. And by the way, little help, there's a Kleenex, there's a big box in there that you're going to put Kleenexes in. We will need to fill that because it's a small thing we can do to show them that we care about them. Bring those Kleenexes, fill that box, okay? So where was I? Let's see. Oh yes, they're just, it's a meat grinder. They're just doing one thing after the next with kid after kid after kid. And there is depression, and there is anxiety, and there's trouble, there's relationship troubles. They've forgotten how to be together as a group. And take a look at most of those kids, really any kid, even the least among us in our community, and they pretty much have all the things in the ads that self-satisfy, supposedly, right? But there's a God-shaped hole for them, and there is for the parents as well. So let me ask you again. What is having it all? Is there anything in this world, or is there everything in this world that can fill the hole in your life and satisfy you for an eternity? Or is there a better way? And then once you all answer that question, the next question is, how do we tell them? Amen.